Getting warmed up. I think that's it. That's all I wanted. What's that? Oh, they want more.
Let's give it to him, man. Let's join in.
Nearer, my God, to thee, nearer to thee, e'en though it be a cross that raises me. Still all my song shall be nearer, my God, to thee. Nearer, my God, to thee. Nearer to thee.
Oh, I can do this. I can do this. I have wakened in thy shelter, oh my God, and it becometh him that seeketh that shelter to abide within the sanctuary of thy protection and the stronghold of thy defense. Illumine my inner being, O my Lord, with the splendors of the day spring of thy revelation, even as thou didst illumine my outer being with the morning light of thy favor, with the morning light of thy favor, with the morning light of thy favor.
A Sufi prayer. O thou who art the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the Lord of heaven and earth, open our hearts that we may hear thy voice, which constantly cometh from within. Disclose to us thy divine light, which is hidden in our souls, that we may know and understand life better. Most merciful and compassionate God, give us thy great goodness. Teach us thy loving forgiveness. Raise us above the distinctions and differences which divide us. Send us the peace of thy divine Spirit and unite us all in thy perfect being. Amen.
Now, this is a little bit of call and response. Okay? So I want you to sing along with me. It's very easy. Here we go. Oh Lord, my God, open thou the door. Provide the means. Make straight the path. And guide the way. For verily thou art the help in peril, the self-subsisting Yahweh. Oh, can say that. Okay, we're going to do it faster now, okay, without the accompaniment, because this is an a cappella song, but I come from this tradition too, so I know the musicians are wonderful. They come and help. All right. I mean, this was my home tradition when I was growing up, so call to duty, right? Ready? I know, but Susan asked me to do it this morning. Tamara wants to tell people what Yabahaolapa means. Come on.
Yeah. Okay, so we just asked y'all to say Yabahaolapa. It means, oh glory of the all glorious.
That's what it means. Thank you, sis. Stay up here with me. We're going to go through it again. We're going to go through it quickly. Ready?
Sister
One.
always puts me on the spot. Okay, go ahead.
1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. Oh Lord, my God.
Oh Lord, my God,
Open thou the door.
open thou the door.
Provide the means.
Provide the means.
Make straight the path.
Make straight the path.
And guide the way.
And guide the way.
For verily thou art.
For verily thou art
the help in peril.
the help in peril.
The self-subsisting.
The self-subsisting.
Yabahaolapa.
Yabahaolapa.
Thank you.
والا ای پروردگار یاران را کامران کن و به عبودیت همدم و دمساز فرما قلوب را نورانی فرما و وجوه را رحمانی کن تا بنیان محبت و مهربانی در عالم انسانی تأسیس گردد و نوع بشر به یکدیگر مفتون و مهرپرور گردند شرق دست در آغوش غرب نماید فرنگ بیدرنگ سبیل محبت پوید ترک تاجیک را همدم داند و هماغوش و مهربان شمرد کل با هم در نهایت الفت و یگانگی معاشرت و مصاحبت نمایند ذکر اغیار نشود همدیگر را آشنا و یار و غمسار گردند ای پروردگار این شب تار را روز روشن فرما و این بغض و عداوت بین ملل را به انس و محبت معدل کن تا عالم آفرینش آسایش یابد و جهان پرغرور از عالم الهی نصیب موفور جوید تویی مقتدر و توانا و تویی بخشنده و درخشنده و بینا
Here's good. Okay. So I want to introduce this. This is Marie McNair's fault. Where's Marie?
She's here somewhere. There she is.
So when we were putting these conferences together, Marie knows that Deirdre and I.
Here's the middle one. Okay. We'll use the middle.
Marie knows that Deirdre and I sing. And so she said, oh, well, maybe you might, hint, hint, want to come up with a song for all of the whole Northeast. Hint, hint. And, okay. So there is a special prayer that has been revealed for all of the Northeastern states. We're going to say this prayer for the Northeastern states. But at the very end, we're going to sing. It's a very easy tune. And you can thank Marie for having to sing it with me. So, so I put Marie on the spot.
O thou kind Lord, praise be unto thee that thou hast shown us the highway of guidance, opened the doors of the kingdom, and manifested thyself through the Son of Reality. To the blind, thou hast given sight. To the deaf, thou hast granted hearing. Thou hast resuscitated the dead. Thou hast enriched the poor. Thou hast shown the way to those who have gone astray. Thou hast led those with parched lips to the fountain of guidance. thou hast suffered the thirsty fish to reach the ocean of reality. And thou hast invited the wandering birds to the rose garden of grace. O thou Almighty, we are thy servants and thy poor ones. We are remote and yearn for thy presence, are athirst for the water of thy fountain, are ill longing for thy healing. We are walking in thy path and have no aim or hope, save the diffusion of thy fragrance, so that all souls may raise the cry of, O God, guide us to the straight path. May their eyes be open to behold the light, and may they be freed from the darkness of ignorance. May they gather round the lamp of thy guidance. May every portionless one receive a share, and may the deprived become the confidants of thy mysteries.
O Almighty, look upon us with the glance of mercifulness. Grant us heavenly confirmation. Bestow upon us the breath of the Holy Spirit, so that we may be assisted in thy service and like unto brilliant stars. Shine in these regions with the light of thy guidance. Shine in these regions with the light of thy guidance. Verily thou art the powerful, the mighty, the wise and the seeing. Again, verily thou art the powerful, the mighty, the wise and the seeing.
Thank you, friends.
It's with great joy that I ask our auxiliary board member, every time I see ABM, I think area branch manager. But we have the joy of having Nima Yusefian to give us a word.
Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. It's a beautiful view from up here. You guys should, if you don't get a chance to come see here, we should at least take a photo. I was asked by the conference team to share some words about maybe the purpose of this conference and give some background. It's truly a privilege to be here and be part of what is one of more than 10,000 conferences that are taking place around the world. Some have already taken place and others will take place within the next couple of weeks or next month or so. And all these conferences have a similar sort of format and ask the same questions of the participants. So imagine in every part of the world, you have groups of maybe 20, maybe 100, maybe 1,000 people getting together, hundreds of them in each country, where the participants are each being asked to reflect on how can we together, through the bonds and friendships that we have at the grassroots, start changing and transforming our society and building those bonds of unity which will allow us to address whatever the issues are. And through this, there's great joy and hope being created in a time when, as you all know, hope, to quote one of the messages, hope has become a depleted resource. Let me share a couple of examples of these conferences. So, there's one that just recently took place in Chad in Central Africa. And those of you that know that region, it's a pretty hard-hit region. It's because of the injustices and, different sort of situations, social economic situations, about half the population is living below the national poverty line. But even within that region, they just held a conference where the chiefs and religious leaders got together for one area and started talking about this concept of collective peace. In Western India, in the area called Maharashtra, again, a region where the UN says there's significant issues regarding droughts and child malnutrition, gender inequality. The group got together, and through these conversations and the same questions that we'll be looking at today, they decided that they themselves will take on the responsibility of addressing the issue of alcohol consumption within families. In the Central African Republic, again, a region that's been hard hit with a lot of war and nearby countries, and actually the UNDP just released that in that region since COVID, there's been a significant spike by 69% of injuries to women and children. And that conference, group of 500 women got together, again, from the grassroots. None of them were maybe experts in these topics. They got together, looked at these questions we will look at today, and decided together they're going to address the issue of gender equality and what is the role of women in fostering a peaceful society. So we're all now connected to all these people with this conference. And again, the questions will be the same, but our answers are different because our reality is different. And I think we all know that here we're also facing significant issues, whether it's related to the division, the political division, whether it's related to the issue of race and racism in the country, whether it's related to education, anything you look at. But the scariest maybe statistic which I came by, and a study that the CDC just released, that just came out last month, that we're seeing in the United States with high school students that the feeling of sadness and hopelessness since 2009 has gone up from 26% to 44%. So we have a situation in this country now where our youngest generations are feeling this sense of hopelessness. And it's in these climates where these conferences are taking place. For here, it's, again, various different issues, but people are gathering and leaving these conferences with a sense of joy and hope and having faith that through the bonds that we create, we do want to help each other and we do want to transform our neighborhood and then slowly our society as well as institutions more and more disintegrate. So that's what we're here for, and that's how we're connecting to a global movement that's taking place right now. And of course, the urgency is clear based on what we all know and what we all see. And through these conferences, hopefully you'll leave with a greater sense of hope in humanity's capacity to help others. And this will be done through the conversations that you have and the input that you'll provide. And each individual, has a role. And you'll see that this process of sort of generating knowledge by talking to each other and learning from our experiences and seeing what people feel will generate some knowledge here. But then it's a small step because the next step is to apply that knowledge. And again, each one of you will be part of a different group, and you're probably living in different areas, and your reality is different there. But hopefully, the most important thing will happen during this conference, which is you'll build these strong ties of friendships, and you'll extend your family to others who can assist and work with you together step by step as your circle expands and then we'll soon see truly transformation taking place. So there's no rules. You know, the main rule is to each, every soul is noble, and we look into each other's eyes, and there's some message from our Creator within them, and we listen to their stories and their journey and their conversations they've had with God, and we reflect, and we build those ties and those bonds of friendship, and then we'll follow up together systematically, small steps, build these teams, and do whatever the work that your group decides to consult on. So thank you again to the committee. You know, these conferences are led by the grassroots. So this conference, you know, you had a teacher, a kindergarten teacher, you had a lawyer, you had, I just heard, a person who worked in the chemical manufacturing. What else do we have from the team? Engineer? Yes, engineer. Oh yes, the architect who's helping fix our highways and roads. Former Broadway person, right? And they've put in all this effort to create this space. And just as, very few of them probably had experience with the conference, and they led this initiative. Hopefully out of this conference, there'll be many teams formed and many things to come and stories to be heard. So next time we meet together, we can hear about all those stories. Thank you again to the committee and everyone who's put this effort together.
Thank you so much, Nima. You really captured the essence of what we hope to accomplish today. Okay, before we get down to the meat of the conference, I thought I'd share a few logistical items with you. First of all, we do have a COVID policy in place, and we're asking that you wear your masks while you are in the venue. Now, when we say wear your mask, we mean cover the nose and the mouth. Okay? And I know that that can be a little bit uncomfortable, especially on such a warm day, but we do have fresh masks out front. So if your mask gets wet and uncomfortable, please see Terry Olander. Terry, will you raise your hand there? She's got masks out by the front door so everyone can just help themselves. We have placed bottles of hand sanitizer throughout the venue. Please feel free to use them as much as you'd like. And though it feels counterintuitive, let's try not to hug one another or shake hands. I know that's not going to work for very long, but we'll do our best, right? Okay, so in the back of your program, Kurt, if you'd put up my first slide there. Nope. That's not it. It should be a map. I sent it to you last night. Okay, well, you know what? I know how to dance, so if you look in the back of your folders, you'll find a map. And pull that out so that we can go over a couple of things together. So first of all, on this map, you will find the emergency exits. When you're in this session, the plenary session, there's an emergency exit directly at the back of the stage. And if you go out of this auditorium, of course, the front doors are to your left. If you go to your right and then make an immediate right again, the door will take you right outside, okay? There are other emergency exits located near our breakout rooms. Practically every breakout room has an emergency exit in it. Yes, out these stairs and up and to the right. Bathrooms. Bathrooms are located through the Chapman Lounge, and just before you go into the cafeteria, you're going to make a right, and you'll see a hallway, and the bathrooms are located there. Okay? They're also marked off on your map. This is the Poughkeepsie Day School, and it is still functioning as a day school. There are children who will be here studying on Monday. And so because we are so grateful that they allowed us to use their space, we're going to ask that we all keep that in mind and we show our gratitude by cleaning up after ourselves and by taking care of the property. Let's see. Your folders, we have just enough folders for everyone who is registered. So we won't be handing out more folders tomorrow. You might want to write your name in the upper right-hand corner. So if by accident you should lay your folder down, we'll be able to get it back to you by putting it in our lost and found up by the registrar's office, desk. And finally, videotaping is underway. The events in this auditorium will be videotaped and live streamed. So if you have family members who are sitting at home wishing they could have been here today, let us know that. Stop me or stop my sister Tamara, and we'll give you, if you give us the email of the person who needs the link, we'll give you the link, and you'll be able to send that to them so that they can participate with us. Now, videotaping will not take place in the breakout rooms. There may be photography in the breakout rooms. If any of you desire not to be videotaped or photographed, please let us know that. In fact, if you go to the registration table, they'll put something on your name tag that will put us on notice that you do not wish to be videotaped. Okay, so we have 2 treats for you, but you're going to have to, you will first have to listen to me talk about the learning train, okay? The treat is that the Souls United Gospel Choir is here, and they have taken the time to put music to some of the writings, and they're going to share that with you in just a minute. But before we get there, we are hoping that after this conference, we will continue to build community, that we will make new friends, and that we will sort of perpetuate these behaviors that we are going to come to understand today. So for that reason, after today's conference, we want 2 things: receipts and reports. Receipts and reports, okay? Now, receipts. When you go into your breakout rooms, a lot of what you are reflecting upon will be scribed onto these 3M poster sheets, all right? And what is scribed there will be brought into the Chapman Lounge after the breakout room by your facilitator, and it will be posted under the learning train. It's a train that's placed on the wall at the end of the Chapman. If you walk into the Chapman Lounge and look up the far wall, you'll see this incredible train. And I'm not just saying it's incredible because my husband designed it. It really is fabulous. And there are 4 cars, because there are 4 cars and an engine, so 5 cars altogether, and they represent each of 5 themes that we will address today. So those are the receipts, the scribed portion of your breakouts. The report will be 1 person from your breakout room will volunteer, grateful volunteer, to come back and take the microphone during what's called a full harvest. So here's the flow of the day. There will be a plenary, which is sort of what we're in right now, and then there will be breakouts where you do the work, and then there will be receipts, which your facilitator will take to that board, but everybody should come immediately back to the auditorium so that we can do the best part, and that is reports. Each group will report on what it is, the gems of understanding that came out of their specific breakout room, okay? So remember, after the breakout session is over, please come back to the auditorium and take your seats, because we only have about 20 minutes to get that done. All right, now it's time for a treat. Let me ask first, Kurt, Terry, Tom, did I forget anything? Evacuation of the theater, fire exits? I did the fire exits. Okay, I did the fire exits. Okay, very good. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for your listening pleasure, Souls United of the Hudson Valley. Kurt? No. Slide. You know, the best laid plans of mice and men, we have this very detailed technical schedule, and still, that's right. Thank you. Sopranos at the far end, altos at this end, tenors in the middle.
Between the other sopranos.
Tenors in the middle. All right, you need to stand on this side of me so that you can hear what I'm saying.
I practiced in the the hall this morning.
All right.
Oh, okay, well, then you got
Our
it.
other tenor is late. He left Bronx
That's why I'm standing
late,
in the
so,
middle.
yeah.
You're right in the mic.
Do not sing in Norford's ear.
That's what I'm asking.
All right. So this piece is based upon the writings about an excerpt from the writings about Baha'i,
Does that
which
make it
reads,
easier?
"The beloved of the Lord must stand fixed as the mountains, firm as impregnable walls, unmoved by even the direst adversities, ungrieved by the worst disasters. Let them cling to the hem of the Harry, can we turn that down just a little bit? Let them cling to the hem of the Almighty God and put their faith in the beauty of the Most High. Let them lean on the unfailing help coming from the ancient kingdom." Thank you.
Are you directing?
Yeah. Okay. Would you direct?
Tamara should do
No, I have to stand next to Norford so you can sing the tenor part. Okay. Up a little closer to the mics, folks. Okay. Beloved of the Lord must stand fixed as the mountains, firm as impregnable walls. The beloved of the Lord must stand fixed as the mountains, firm as impregnable walls. Again, repeat. The beloved of the Lord must stand fixed as the mountains, firm as impregnable walls. The beloved of the Lord must stand fixed as the mountains, firm as impregnable walls. The beloved of the Lord must stand fixed as the mountains, firm as impregnable walls. The beloved of the Lord must stand fixed as the mountains, firm as impregnable walls. Ungrieved must they remain. Ungrieved, oh God, my God. Unmoved must they remain. Ungrieved must they remain. Let them cling to the hem of Almighty God and put their faith in the beauty of the Most High. Let them lean on the unfailing help that cometh from the ancient kingdom. The beloved of the Lord must stand fixed as the mountains, firm as impregnable walls. The beloved of the Lord must stand fixed as the mountains, firm as impregnable walls. Firm as impregnable walls. Firm as impregnable A special thank you to Susan Cody and Norford Thompson, who yesterday agreed to sing with us, even though they'd never rehearsed the song. But that's the spirit. That is the spirit. All right. So, let's get started. I have two readers. Would you come stand over here on the stairs? And we're going to talk a little bit about Baha'u'llah's vision for humanity. So as you've probably noticed, I'm an extremely joyful person. I feel so pleased and privileged to be here, not just with my husband, John, who's standing right here. This is the one that did the train that's on the wall in there. But to be here with my Poughkeepsie cluster of Baha'is, to be here with my Westchester cluster of Baha'is, Orange County cluster of Baha'is, and all of the wider community that has come to join us. The young people are leaving. Okay. All right. Yes. The junior youth and children. There we go. All right. And so the thing that I'm most grateful for is that all of us are laboring within a shared framework. We are laboring within a shared framework. What do I mean by that, right? So it's our belief that Baha'u'llah's vision for humanity, that there is a framework that emanates from that. And it's that framework that we want to share with you today. So if my two readers would come forward.
Hello, Paul. Baha'u'llah states that the purpose for which mortal men have from utter nothingness stepped into the realm of being is that they may work for the betterment of the world and live together in concord and harmony. He has revealed teachings that make this possible.
Building a society that consciously pursues this collective purpose is the work not only of this generation, but of many generations to come. And Baha'u'llah's followers welcome all who labor alongside them in this undertaking.
I'd like to place an exclamation point on just a few words, the ones that are in bold. In the first quote, we are told that the purpose that human beings stepped into creation is so that they could work for the betterment of the world, and so that they could live together in concord and harmony. These are lofty goals, and there is a pathway. The second quote emphasizes that in order to build this type of society, Baha'is are working collectively and consciously toward this common purpose. The common purpose being the betterment of the world. Okay. Now, in your breakout rooms, you're going to explore this idea of protagonists. The vision that Baha'u'llah has given us describes three protagonists that are constantly in dynamic engagement one with the other. The endeavors of the worldwide Baha'i community can be seen in terms of this being one of the processes that animates the work of Baha'is worldwide. So the first is the individual, the spiritual enrichment of individuals. 10 years ago, the Souls United Choir started, and 10 years ago, the Race Unity Circle here in Poughkeepsie started, and the objective of both, a part of the objective was to begin to learn together those things we simply do not know about one another, to try and tear down the barriers that separate us and fortify those strengths and things that bring us together. So those two endeavors have been ongoing for 10 years now in the Poughkeepsie area, and I'm sure there are many around the Baha'i, in different Baha'i communities. The development of local and national communities. What is this idea of community? Does it just mean your neighborhood? Or does it also mean the community of women, the community of mothers, the community of African Americans, the community of fill in the blank? So you're going to brainstorm some ideas about what a community is. And the maturation and of our administrative institutions. Many of you may have heard the phrase institutional racism, institutional bias. There are other institutional characteristics that we are empowered, or we hope to be empowered to change, so long as we are consciously and purposefully and with common purpose focusing on them and making an effort to see them evolved. How do we want them to change? Again, that's something that we decide amongst ourselves as a community, right? So these are the three protagonists: individuals, institutions, and communities. And they necessarily work in tandem one with the other. There's a synergy between them. The beloved guardian of the Baha'i faith, Shoghi Effendi, says the following in speaking to this point. He says, "We cannot segregate the human heart from the environment outside us and say that once one of these is reformed, everything will be improved. Man is organic with the world. His inner life molds the environment and itself also is itself also deeply affected by it. The one acts upon the other and molds the environment in an ever-abiding change in the life of man is the result of these mutual interactions." So the interplay of these three protagonists is a process that will be perpetual. Okay? Now, I just wanted to share with you a few characteristics of the qualities that these three institutions must have if we are going to move toward the betterment of the world. Now, these ideas come directly out of the Baha'i writings. They won't be unfamiliar to you. But again, we're talking about raising these notions to the level of purposeful consciousness so that we form a collective endeavor. We start to work one with the other, sharing this as our common purpose. The first is justice. Baha'u'llah says, "O son of spirit, the best beloved of all things in my sight is justice. Turn not away therefrom if thou desirest me. By its aid thou shalt see with thine own eyes and not through the eyes of others, and shalt know of thine own knowledge and not through the knowledge of thy neighbor." The second is unity. Baha'u'llah has written, "O well-beloved ones, the tabernacle of unity hath been raised. Regard ye not one another as strangers. Ye are the fruits of one tree and the leaves of one branch." Abdul Baha further speaks to this issue of unity as follows, and it's a bit of a long excerpt. I'll try and read it quickly, but it's almost prophetic. He was talking at the time about the devastation of World War I. And this is what he said: "Ye observe how the world is divided against itself. How many a land is red with blood, and its very dust is caked with human gore. The fires of conflict have blazed so high that never in early times, not in the Middle Ages, not in recent centuries, hath there ever been such a hideous war. A war that is even as milestones, taking for grain the skulls of men. Nay, even worse, for flourishing countries have been reduced to rubble, cities have been leveled with the ground, and many a once prosperous village hath been turned into ruin. Fathers have lost their sons, and sons their fathers. Mothers have wept away their hearts over dead children. Children have been orphaned, women left to wander, vagrants without a home. From every aspect humankind hath sunken low. Lord, are the piercing cries of fatherless children, loud the mother's anguished voices reaching to the skies. But then he goes on to say, and the breeding ground for all of these tragedies is prejudice. Prejudice of race and nation, of religion, of political opinion. And the root cause of prejudice is blind imitation of the past. Imitation in religion, in racial attitudes, in national bias, in politics. So long as this aping of the past persisteth, just so long will the foundations of the social order be blown to the four winds. Just so long will humanity be continually exposed to direst peril. He could have written those words yesterday. And finally, I want to talk about the characteristic of religion, okay? We're a multi-faith gathering, and so many of us find our way to our Creator following different paths. The revelation of Baha'u'llah places as an essential piece this notion of religion. So Baha'u'llah has said, in truth, religion is a radiant light and an impregnable stronghold for the protection and welfare of the peoples of the worlds. He said further, immerse yourselves in the ocean of my words, that ye may unravel its secrets and discover all the pearls of wisdom that lie hid in its depths. Now, I don't think, it would take days, weeks, even months to debate and discuss this notion of religion. So I'm asking you for today to take it as a given that religion provides guidance. No matter what religion it is, provides guidance toward the building of more vibrant communities and toward the betterment of the world. So, your journey today is going to be full of laughter. It's going to be full of joy. It's going to be full of food, good music, and and lots of movement from place to place. And it is our hope that this experience will be joyful and that you will leave, as Nima pointed out, that you will leave inspired and hopeful and recommitted to engaging with people of like mind in building or making a better society, building a better world. Now, before I release you to your breakout rooms, we're almost to that point, I talked about receipts and reports, right? So when you get into your breakout room, you'll need to select someone to be your scribe. That person will keep track of the ideas that you come up with as you're talking and reflecting. And that person will then bring the Post-it and stick it under the train there. And you'll need to choose a reporter, just to remind you. At the close of the breakouts, come immediately back to the auditorium and take your seats so that we can start the reporting out process. These are just a few thoughts for engaging with one another. So, actually, they're not up there yet, are they? There they are. These are our quote unquote ground rules for today. Sincerity. Speak with sincerity and from a place of personal experience and tell your story. Tell your story. It might be helpful to adopt a humble posture of learning. There are always things that we can learn from one another, no matter what ideas we may have. And make sure that your fellow participants all have a chance to speak. If you're like me, you like to chatter. If the microphone is in front of you, you have something to say. Somebody like me should step back and allow others to speak. Respect one another. Listen actively to one another. Get to know one another. And enjoy this deep dive into Baha'u'llah's vision for raising up vibrant communities. All right. Okay. All right. So our reporters should be here on the front row. Why don't we start? Tammy, what group should we start with? 12? Okay. We'll start with Mom.
Funny for you. Good afternoon. I'm Lois Mitchell. I am the reporter for group that met in 12, and we are the outer counties. You thought we were others. We're not. We're outers. Our group was able to identify several things common in many of our communities, several concerns and needs, observations. We noted that there was segregation, there was isolation, there was corporate influence, there was racism, there was pride, and there were opportunities for change and action. And we concluded that we are focused on an awareness of everyone having God-given powers and talents to lead constructive change. And we were taken by the paragraph that spoke about capacity. And our group determined that we can develop this capacity for change by tapping into our God-given powers. Thank you.
Okay, our next group. Alyssa?
Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa. I was in room 13 for the Orange County group. Some challenges that we identified were we have a big drug problem in our high schools. Also, isolation is a big issue. For seniors and many other people, there's also a major lack of communication due to that. Also, major political discord. And we live in a majority white community. So there's a lot of racism as well, and a fear of religion. So to combat these difficulties, we focused on 3 protagonists, which are the individual, the community, and the institution. And so, for example, on religion, how are we going to explain faith to people that are very fearful of religion and they don't want to talk about it? One solution was the habit of study. So we are familiar with what we know about the faith, and we can talk about it joyfully and radiate it, and that will draw more people to us. Also with addiction, like in our high schools, we believe addiction is a spiritual problem, and so we wanted to focus on purpose and how we can integrate God into our lives. So that was another solution. And for politics, the discord in politics, we talked about how, well, one person in our group referred to the Bible and said that a house divided against itself will not stand. America will not stand if we remain divided. And so we instead focus on that and our unity instead of what divides us. So that's what we talked about. Yep.
Hello, my name is Kirsten. I am the reporter for room 18, which was the lower Westchester, both the lower and upper Westchester room, actually, because we combined more powers. So we spent a lot of time focusing on the quotes and the power of an initiative and the importance of starting at the grassroots. Some challenges that we identified were looking for opportunities, especially as Westchesterites. We have very scheduled lives, and we noted the importance of scheduling what's important to us, because or else it won't happen. So just like taking time and putting it in your schedule when you are going to reach out to others. Other challenges that that was one challenge that we identified. It's hard to find opportunities and time to reach out to our communities. And we also identified that it's hard if you don't have children to form a community because it's not like integrated with like, children's activities. So that is one challenge that we are hoping to overcome. And then another challenge that we identified was the reception of religion by others. And to overcome that, we identified leading by example, because if we lead by example by loving and caring for others, and really taking initiative and feeling empowered, and focusing on like both the interrelation between the inner life and the community, people will be more receptive to it. And it's really not about converting other people to the Baha'i faith. It's about the ideas and Baha'u'llah's teachings and how we portray those to others. And then another difficulty that we identified was isolation. And we thought that it was very important to acknowledge and be aware of the mental health issues that have arisen since the pandemic. But we also noted that through the pandemic, we've learned a lot, whether it's through Zoom calls or like neighborhood walks. Just talking to somebody can make all the difference. You do have to be intentional about it though as well. But because mental health the issues have risen so much, and you can see it through the stats. And especially since the pandemic and all the isolation, we really have to be intentional about reaching out to others. And then also, lastly, being very intentional about building community. We are always in a community, whether we are in work or school or just at home with your family. There's never a bad time to reach out because we talk about community building and grassroots efforts, but you are always in a community, whether you're at your 9-to-5 job or elsewhere. And there's always change that can be made. Thank you.
Okay, yes, come on forward.
I want to interrupt and walk on down while you're speaking. My name is Matthew. I was kind of stepped in to be the reporter for group number 15, which is the lower end Upper Dutchess County, neither of which I am from. I want to say thank you to all the other reporters. It was so beautiful. Such a sweet way to learn being here with all of you. And the group, we broke out into little duos, little pairs. It's so nice to just connect with somebody and then get to like learn in that way where you get to hear what other people kind of extracted from their partners. And from that standpoint, learn how to communicate in a way that was meaningful and intentional, and, hear like, oh, wow, I didn't even ask my partner about like what their favorite fruit is or something like that, but that guy did, that's pretty cool. So I see that there's a really beautiful dynamic on how to learn here and in this way. and very special. And yeah, some of the problems we identified was definitely interesting. I didn't actually have a line item for that until everybody else kind of honed in on that one. So beautiful to like think about and to see the whole experience from that standpoint. We identified actually some really touching points. One was the how do we reach people who are very angry? How do we reach people who are very closed off, traumatized? And it's just, and just healing enough just to put it on the table and start thinking about it as a collective. And one of the other ones was the uptick in teen suicides and how there's so many calls coming in for that and how that's such a major issue. And again, just the idea of putting it on the table. I feel like so much of our collective issue is thrives in the darkness of secrecy. So to have a platform where we can just come and put it on the table and say, hey, this is something. And then to see the emotions get welled up in people who otherwise may not have actually even had a voice to express what they've been experiencing, and to see them get to a point of, yeah, this is really a problem for me. This is something I've really been struggling with. I don't know how to get to the solution. And for that conversation to arise as saying, fist on the table, kind of, what is the darn solution? Like we need, like it's so apparent, and to watch us as a group find that groove that kind of goes, okay, cool. We step over here into the problem a little bit just to be able to identify it and then get off of it back into a conversation about what the solution is. And that's so rare to have a community platform that invites you to go into the pain and then says, hey, come back over. Now we can build something to like sustain that. Right. And I think what we ultimately really honed in on as a group, which is really beautiful. What kind of really stood out to me was out of one of the passages, this line, cultivating conditions for progress. And there was a lot of conversation around that, the phone call, just calling the person, or if it's, creating a race unity circle, or, going to the schools and just like really, I think just speaking and having that, being willing and also honing in on this idea of honing in on the people who are willing, and to identify, oh, hey, there are some people who are angry and shut down and closed off and not available. And on both sides of those people, there's a person that's actually ready and willing to be part of the thing, and to like find those people and to curate a relationship with those people. That is a relationship that's leading by example, and it's not just kind of on the pulpit talking down to somebody. It's really like an offering that says like, it's not this way of saying, you do this. It's this way of taking somebody else's hand and say, hey, let's go do this. Right. Such a totally different approach, being that, which is ultimately encompasses unity. Right. Everybody wants to have their hand held, no matter if it's COVID or not. Just because we ain't holding hands doesn't mean we don't want to. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you. Excellent. All right. So we are very happy and honored to welcome a young man from city of Poughkeepsie. We are right now in the town of Poughkeepsie. We are welcoming Nicholas Jackson from the city of Poughkeepsie. And Nicholas has prepared a dance presentation just for the conference. And so thank you, Nicholas, if you'll join us at the conference.
I left this up here. I was looking for it. I was like, no, where's my necklace at? How y'all doing today? Yes, my name is Nick Jackson, born and raised in Poughkeepsie, New York. I'm a hip hop and dancer / visual artist, if you will. My art form is movement, and this piece is called Rain. It's by Sunday Service Choir. It's a very nice song. Hope you guys enjoy it. I appreciate everybody, and I appreciate the invite. Wonderful seeing everybody and their beautiful faces for coming out today. Thank you. Gotta get all my stuff back. Thank you.
Man. Nicholas, thank you so much. That was phenomenal. For some of us who absolutely love gospel music, it is such a joy to see it expressed in a whole nother way. And that's not quite exactly praise dancing, right? That's hip hop dancing. But the interpretation is like, wow. So I really love that. And thank you, Nicholas, for that. Our next presenter, I want to tell you a minute about her. This is my friend, Ms. Shona Tucker. She is an extraordinary talent, chair of the drama department at Vassar. But that's not what I want to tell you about her. What I want to tell you is that we met her at the Women's March. We were just singing, and then all of a sudden there was this voice from behind us that was singing, and we were like, okay, who are you, and do you want to sing with the choir? And she said, yes. and so this is how we met Shona. And what a blessing, because she's such a talent and has such a voice. But she's going to share a different talent with us now. And so Shona, if you will come and bless us.
Good afternoon, y'all. I am honored to stand before you. As Tamara says, I like to sing a little bit, but I think that I first got in touch with my love of performance from being a little kid. My mother was having me stand up in front of church doing poetry. And the poetry, you might not have heard it if you were sitting in the audience. You might not, but I felt it a lot. It looked like, it started out with Black poetry. And so when Tamara told me the theme, I thought of one of my favorite poets and one of my favorite poems, For My People, by Margaret Walker. She wrote it in 1942. And it says of the poem, she wrote it, this poem was written when worldwide pain, sorrow, and affliction were tangibly evident. And as few could isolate the Black man's dilemma from humanity's dilemma, during the Depression years or during the war years, she said that the power of resilience presented in the poem is the hope that she has for us all. For my people everywhere, singing their slave songs repeatedly, their dirges and their ditties and their blues and jubilees, praying their prayers nightly to an unknown God, bending their knees humbly to an unseen power. For my people lending their strength to the years, to the gone years and the now years and the maybe years. Washing, ironing, cooking, scrubbing, sewing, mending, hoeing, digging, planting, plowing, pruning, patching, never gaining, never reaping, never knowing, and never understanding. For my playmates in the clay and dust and sands of Alabama backyards, playing, baptizing, and teaching and doctor and jail and soldier and school and mama and cooking and playhouse and concert and store and hair and Miss Chumby and company. For the cramped, bewildered years, we went to school to learn to know the reasons why, and the answers to, and the people who, and the places where, and the days when. In memory of the bitter hours when we discovered that we were black and poor and small and different, and nobody cared, and nobody wondered, and nobody understood. For the boys and girls who grew in spite of these things, to be man and woman, to laugh and sing and dance and play and drink their wine and religion and success, to marry their playmates and bear children and then die of consumption and anemia and lynching. For my people, thronging 47th Street in Chicago and Lenox Avenue in New York and Rampart Street in New Orleans. Lost, disinherited, dispossessed, and happy people filling the cabarets and taverns and other people's pockets, needing bread and shoes and money and milk and land and something all our own. For my people blundering, walking blindly, spreading joy, losing time, being lazy, sleeping when hungry, shouting when burdened, and drinking when hopeless. And shackled and tangled among ourselves by the unseen creatures who tower over us omnisciently and laugh. For my people blundering and groping and floundering in the darks of churches and clubs and schools and committees and associations, societies, councils, and conventions, distressed, disturbed, deceived, and devoured by money-hungry, glory-craving leeches, preyed on by a facile force of state, fad, and novelty, by false prophet and a holy believer. For my people, standing, staring, trying to fashion a better way. Trying to fashion a better way from confusion, from hypocrisy and misunderstanding. Trying to fashion a world that will hold all of the people, all of the faces, all the Adams and Eves and their countless generations. Let a new earth rise. Let another world be born. Let a bloody peace be written in the sky. Let a second generation full of courage issue forth. Let a people loving freedom come to growth. Let a beauty full of healing and a strength of final clenching be the pulsing in our spirits and our blood. Let the martial songs be written. Let the dirges disappear. Let a race of men now rise and take control.
Don't quite know what to say to that. Shona, thank you. thank you so much for setting the tone for the conversation we need to have. Indeed, let a new earth rise. I am honored to welcome yet another sister, my sister Rizwan Idara, who is so remarkable that they had a whole day just for her down in Peekskill. She's that kind of woman. And we are so privileged to have her in this conference, and she's going to share a little bit with us about what it means. How does that new earth rise? How does that new race of people rise up? How do we take charge? And so, Rizwan, welcome.
Good afternoon. That's a tall order, so I'm going to do my best to share with you some of the learning and experience that we go through in Peekskill. So, New Era Creative Space. What is New Era Creative Space? So, Tamara asked me to talk about vibrant communities, what they are, and how do we create it. I just want to start by saying that New Era Creative Space is a 16-year project in the making. So we created with lots of patience and a commitment to the betterment of the world. And can I leave now? Kidding. So where is this clicker? So this project started about 16 years ago with a theater. And we were committed to, it started as an individual initiative that then grew into a community building activity. And the initiative was, the question that was being asked by myself was, I had young children at the time. How do we create a world in which children feel like they can, where they belong, and they can take part in the betterment of humanity? So that was the question. And so we started a project, and it started really honestly in my living room with a group of women talking about spiritual parenting, and the idea to start this theater company inspired by the theater company in New York City. So we're not producers of theater, but one thing we knew was the arts is a powerful tool for connecting souls, for creative thinking, for expression. And in the Baha'i faith, it does talk about how the arts is, it says that the faith will spread through the arts like wildfire. So to me, wildfire is a very powerful image of how powerful the arts can be. So the tool that we used in our community was the arts. And so I'm going to tell you the story about New Era Creative Space, and it's just one way of creating community. So we're using the arts not as a tool, really, as a tool to build creative community. So why New Era Creative Space? This organization is inspired really by the writings of Baha'u'llah. And it's inspired by the belief that children are the most precious treasure a community can possess. And in them is a potential for the future. And education can help tap into moral and intellectual potential of each individual being. So we thought we'd use education as that tool, but not just focus on intellectual or even artistic skills, but really merge, tap into the moral capacity of each individual. And the mission of New Era's Creative Space is really, above all, is to inspire stronger communities through creative programs. So I keep saying we're using programming, we're using the arts as a tool to create community. because it is a powerful tool. And Baha'u'llah says, regard man as a mind rich in gems of inestimable value. Education can alone cause it to reveal its splendors and enable mankind to benefit therefrom. So this is really at the core of everything we do at New Era Creative Space. So over the years, I mean, all of this just is, like I said, it's 16 years in the making. So we've, using the Baha'i writings as the guiding principle, so to speak, we've come up with these values that we want to work in our communities: creativity, joy, justice, nobility, service, and empathy. So these are the core values of New Era Creative Space. And as we develop programming, we think really intentionally about these core values and how we can incorporate that into all of the work we do, from working with the children, working with parents, working with the community. It truly is a community effort. And we try to incorporate all of this into the work that we do. So our vision is really to build stronger communities that are vibrant, thriving, self-sustaining, and diverse, where children and youth are part of that community, and where we are really working on developing the leaders of tomorrow through the work that we do. And working with the kids and really tapping into those, mining those gems of honesty, of creativity, of love, of empathy, of justice. Many of the kids that we work to don't have access, would not have access if we didn't intentionally create opportunities so that they can participate in our programs. Clicker. So it's, our method is really threefold. We collaborate with families, with children, with the parents, with the teachers. We collaborate with them to come up with, I think it's really important to understand our communities, what are the needs of our communities, and we can only do that if we talk to the people in our communities, right? And we figure out what is the need, and we are doing it through the arts and through education. And of course, the programs itself is about providing experiential learning for the children, where they're learning by doing. And service being part of our core values, the children also participate in activities. We have a lot of leadership and empowerment programs which are inspired really by the Baha'i Junior Youth model. We try to incorporate that in the work that we do. And as we work with children, what we've come to realize is that we are kind of creating a new way of being with kids. And that really honors the nobility of the individual child. And in order to do that, the people that work with our kids, we need to bring them into this vision. So something that evolved over time was actually, so the more we get into it, the more we experiment with this New Era Creative Space project, it just gets bigger and bigger. It keeps. So now we, over the past year or so, we've been training teachers, and talking about the nobility of children, talking about these minds that we are trying to gem, that our process here is not just about the arts. It's really about mining those gems at the core. It's really about inspiring stronger communities. You're right, it's really about using the arts as a tool for all of that. And the highest, peak skill where I live has a pretty diverse community, but the group that we're really trying to reach, or rather, I would say the group that we're paying the most attention to is that high impact group that often gets left behind and are not served. And in our community, it's mostly Black and brown children. So we really pay attention to that group in terms of providing the means for them to be able to take our programs, to not let there be any barrier. And ultimately, that is justice, right? One of our core values is justice, and justice is not just about teaching the kids about justice or about how the teachers treat the kids, but it's also about allowing us access to our programs and taking them into spaces that traditionally, or at least in this country, spaces that are primarily white spaces, so to speak, right? So we take our children into these spaces to show them that the world is theirs, really, and we can all benefit from that. And this just, I'll skip through that. We collaborate a lot with local partners in our community, and I think that's part of how we build community, is collaborating with our school district, with local organizations, with the NAACP, with local youth organizations, because I think we can't talk about building community if we don't work with the community, right, with different organizations within the community. And before, can I pause? Okay, I have to click. So I just want to say, you know, what New Era Creative Space is, for me, has been this experiment in figuring out how to build community. And a lot of people, you know, you guys are listening and looking at this, well, this is huge. This is at this point, it's a nonprofit organization. And that is not what everyone, you know, I'm not saying that we should all start nonprofit organizations. But really at the core of this project is building community, of learning. We've learned a lot about communities, that we need to talk to our neighbors. We need to know what are the needs of the community. What do our children need? Or where, you know, in our own little spheres of influence, where is it that we can build community? And at the heart of community is relationship building. This project is 16 years of relationship building that started in a living room with a bunch of mothers talking about spiritual principle. How do we apply spiritual principles to raising our children? That was the question. That was the initial question. And we sat around in my living room talking about it. And then it so happens that a number of us were artists. So the next stage, so it kind of evolved over time. So what I'm trying to say is that at the core of building vibrant communities is building relationships, is thinking about our communities and figuring out what is the need. And it may be that we work with children, but it may be that we work with adults, right? Whatever it is that we find that we can connect with human beings, and it means getting out there, talking to people, getting to know our neighbors, you know, sitting and praying with people. Some of the times that we met in my living room, it was, you know, we were saying prayers for our kids. And these were parents from different backgrounds. Because most of the people, I happen to be a Baha'i, but I think my mother-in-law is the only other Baha'i in this organization. But everybody else is not, because that's not the point. I mean, Baha'u'llah, I think in the beginning, it was talking about working together, hand in hand, to build a better world. And we can do that if we really get out there and start having these courageous conversations with people in our communities, and then see what we can do and how we can influence change. So I will stop talking, and I'll show you the short film about New Era Creative Space that was created recently. So thank you for your patience. And I just want to mention that these children that you saw in this film, some of them we've known for 6, 7, 8 years. So we don't, it's never a one-time thing. We invest in them, and they stay with us, and they keep coming back. And that is how we try in our small way to build community. So thank you. Yes. We work with our local schools, and we offer a lot of programs in Peekskill, the school district after-school program, which is a work in progress. But we are very, in our programming, like last year, actually, let me backtrack and say one of our board members, he's not a board member, advisory board member is on our board, school board. He's a member of our school board. So we do pay attention to what's happening in the schools, because in order to, and he supports our programs, his children were in our schools, were in our programs. And it's good to know people in the community so that we can have the conversations of how to better serve our children. So yes, we do. But as far as politics is concerned, we stay away from it. The kids are very aware. We talk about some of the things that are going on. I mean, tomorrow, 2 of our young ones are supposed to do a spoken word here tomorrow. And it's based on what was going on in the world in 2020 with the killings, with the killing of George Floyd. And out of that, we had conversations with the kid, and out of that came a very passionate poem, you know, from spoken word, because they were feeling it and they needed a place to process. So we provide them with that space where they can process some of the things that are going on in the community. And some of them go out there and they join. Like, we have a number of our kids who are on the NAACP, for instance, because they want to make a difference in their community. But we focus on the arts and artistic expression, using that as a way to process and express some of the things that are going on in society. I hope that answers your question. I'll be around too. Yes. I don't know if we have the time, but but yeah, I mean, my kids were really young, and we were looking to do, well, first we wanted to just have meetings. Actually, Marisol, who's here, hi Marisol, we were inspired. Marisol was doing a spiritual parenting workshop. I mean, not workshop, like meeting, right? Monthly meetings or weekly meetings at her house, and I went to one, and she lives too far away. So we decided to start our own, which is great. You want to do things locally instead of commuting to Mamaroneck. So we started a spiritual parenting group inspired by you, thank you, in Peekskill. And I mean, I can talk more, one-on-one with you or whoever wants to during a break. But it really was very organic, of meeting like bi-weekly as our kids were running around in the living room, and we were, a few of us were artists, and we started talking about how do we take this beyond here and how we do something that can benefit our children. And so it evolved eventually into this theater company, which was focused on building character, which was inspired by another theater company. And then over the years, it just slowly evolved into something completely different. I would not have imagined when we started that this would be, what you just saw would be the product. It kind of evolved, and here we are.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well, as I said, she is amazing, but also an example. And I hope that we all heard something inspiring that we will now take into our rooms. We are getting ready to go back into the breakout rooms. And if whatever room you were in before, you should be back in that room again. I understand that we consolidated some of the rooms. So there's now just the Westchester room, which is in 18, thank you. And there is the Duchess room, which is now in 15, and all the other rooms should be the same. So if you are in Orange County, you should be in room 13. If you are from any other county, or as we say, the outer counties, you should be in room 12. And with that, I want to turn us loose again to our breakout rooms. We have, again, about an hour and 10 minutes. Some of you may have noticed that time goes quickly. It sounds longer than it is. So let's make good use of it, and I'll see you soon.
Hey, hello. So, before we do our report back, which is bound to be a lot of fun, because I'm sure everyone worked very hard on their vision boards, we're going to hear from the future. We're going to hear from a group of young people who've been working on a treat for us. So, without further ado, I will leave it to the youth.
Even as the
Oh, that was a treat. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let your light shine before the eyes of men. Okay, so now it's time for the adults to demonstrate the love and creativity we just saw rendered in song by explaining their artwork. Several of you have posted your vision boards up front. Would you please send your reporters down to the front row? If you're a reporter for your group, or if you would just like to explain your vision board, please come down to the front. All right, Ted, go right ahead. Just have a seat right here in the front. So Ted, since you were up there, why don't you go right ahead? Uh-huh.
One moment. Oh, ooh. Here we go. Okay. Beautiful day, friends. Aloha. I'll do my best to synopsize a little vision. Insights, there's so much. Really would have been wonderful to dive into each piece. But very much what I noticed as patterns were this loving, forward-looking, and learning and action that is clearly advancing, with a real emphasis on the natural environment was one of the big elements, as nature and food access was a really big consistent pattern among the visions that people's needs are met, and that there's a way of listening, and that those needs, finding a process of capacity building to meet those needs in some way, with a big emphasis on family and all generations being together in that learning process and united, and with these spiritual virtues of trust and love really blossoming throughout, and the signs of that coming together. And I'd say that the other element that came through, what was it? It's hard to remember. Oh, there was this one example of the fruit of that being no more police violence, being like a sign of vibrant community life. And I thought that that was just such a clear vision that just sounds like the accomplishment that we're looking for. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't remember what all of my partners or groups posters were about. I'm sorry, but I can talk about mine. Okay, so this is me and my partners. It's pretty simple. So we were inspired by the quote, "The systematic pursuit of the plan gives rise to a pattern of collective endeavor, distinguished not only for its commitment to service, but also for its attraction to worship." So in the center, you'll see, is the Baha'i temple. And on the edges, we have art. We also have leisure and family. We have social justice. We have sports and education and work. And they're all attracted to worship the Baha'i temple in the middle. Yep, thank you.
Hello. Okay, so our discussion was very much focused on the topic of building communities and how to promote worship and uplifting gatherings in our respective communities. One big theme was arts and especially music. That actually was brought up several times. We noted how music can really touch the soul in ways that words can't, or often can't, and music can cross language barriers and really any other barrier between people. It's just sort of a universal language. Additionally, we thought of examples of building community and building, conversations on spiritual themes, referencing question 2. And some examples were taking desserts or gifts to our neighbors, creating choirs, although that's rather ambitious, but it's lovely. It's a great idea. Or just when there's a need by anybody, whether it's like a death in the family or a celebration or et cetera, et cetera. Just being together with your neighbors in that experience, whether it's through going over and talking to them or bringing like a cake or a baked good if they like suffered a death or some in the family. And that is also would help to promote a culture of home visits and just make that a normal in our communities. Additionally, we can encourage children-focused activities, whether it's like junior youth groups or children's classes or youth groups. And lastly, one big theme that I noticed was that a lot of it was based on, a lot of our ideas were based on building on existing relationships and existing organizations and activities in our communities, because those are there for a reason, and often those can like use enhancing, and those can be sort of tools that we use to open up conversations, important conversations about our spirituality and love, and really begin that grassroots efforts. And then over here we have our Post-its with all of these ideas. Thank you.
All right, family. Closer? All right. So, thank you all for that. And thank you for everybody being here and all this good work deep in the heart space. So it was so beautiful to talk about, cultivating vibrant communities and worship and service and kind of how all this fits together. It's really beautiful. I'm kind of a word guy. I've been writing poetry a long time, so I really get into the definitions. And so we kind of got into talking about what is worship, and it was really nice to hear how everybody has different perspectives on that, and a little bit of a nuance, but we're all kind of saying the same thing. And one person had said, which I thought was so beautiful, work done in the spirit of service is worship. Another person went on to say, creating a space to connect and give the glory to God, as if to, dedicate it outward. You have a success, dedicate it. You have a struggle, dedicate it. Another person said, a quiet space for intimate prayer to deeply connect. And I just thought that it was all really beautiful. And then service, we got into service, and we took a quote from the reading, which is uplifting, well-prepared community gatherings. I thought that was a really beautiful little excerpt on kind of what service means, and then we collectively chimed into our different vocations and how we can bring service anywhere we go into any relationship. And although you may be a baker, you can really invoke service in gifting that baked good to a neighbor, or just going to a house that might need some extra food, that somebody might be hungry or might not, just to offer it out. I really honed in on, we found ourselves speaking about characteristics of a vibrant community, which to me kind of translated as this idea. In my life, I've always kind of found myself saying why. I was that little 7-year-old that said, yeah, but why? Yeah, but no, and I really meant it. I wasn't just a 7-year-old saying why. I really meant like, why? Why do I do the right thing? Why do I pray? Why do we do this? And so when I found later in life that there were actual reasons why, it really intrigued me, and it really inspired me to get into the spiritual path. And so I just gathered, as we were speaking around the room, a little list of what I can call promises of what kind of come to a head when you cultivate vibrant community. And so some of the promises that we collectively figured out was togetherness, having family and friends, incredible promise that we all crave, accumulating merit, taken right out of the readings, this idea of accumulating merit, and just all the goodness that comes along with that. building community, something we all inherently need, a sense of purpose, which I think is gravely lacking in fundamental educational systems and vocations at large. Establishing trusting relationships, another promise that comes from this beautiful idea of cultivating a vibrant community. Participation, just being involved, having somewhere to go, having a commitment that you show up to on a regular basis. One person in the group used the example that she has been showing up for the local library for 30 years. And then she said, and so many relationships have come and so many opportunities have arisen because of this very seemingly simplistic commitment that she took to show up every week. And all these beautiful, just a lifetime of invitations has come her way just by taking a service in the community. Encouragement, having that constant encouragement of other people kind of talking you up and not having that negativity, but really getting that positive uplift, both socially and spiritually. I guess I can wrap it up by tying it into the arts, as that's what kind of we ended up doing, making the collage. And we had, it was kind of like we were doing the thing, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we're making a collage, and everybody's getting up and cutting the things up, and there's shreds everywhere, and people are writing, and everybody's this joyful, there's like joyful playfulness kind of took over the room. And I took this little line out of the reading that says, so integral. It says art, so integral, a part of the development of a community from the start. And then it goes on to say it generates joy. Being in the arts generates joy, strengthens unity, and disseminating of knowledge. So I thought that was really beautiful that I actually never really tied the arts into the idea of collective art and my art. So for whatever reason, that was a big takeaway for me, that art is actually a collective experience, and art done intentionally to cultivate vibrant community is a whole different kind of mentality around art, which I really love, and it's got me pretty fired up. So that's pretty. And then our vision board, we kind of just hodgepodge a bunch of beautiful things together that all on building vibrant communities, and just had a lot of fun doing it. It was a good time, and it's been a while since I think a lot of us made a collage. I'm gonna have to start doing that a little more often. Thank you.
So our stage manager has just told me that we have less than 10 minutes left in this session, and I'd like to invite those who created vision boards to come up and explain what's on their vision board. If there are 2 or 3 people who would like to do that, I'll do that with ours here. The other announcement that I had was that we were going to take a group picture, and guess where we were going to meet to take that group picture? Outside, right outside the front door, right? But as you can hear, we're in the midst of a storm, so so that may have to wait until the end of the day. But Mark, come on, hon. I'll hold it, you explain. Or you hold it, I'll explain. Okay. Mark's like, I'll do that. Okay, so Mark and I were inspired by the quote that said, Baha'is are engaged in cities and villages across the globe in establishing a pattern of life in which increasing numbers, irrespective of background, are invited to take part. This pattern of community life is giving rise to vibrant and purposeful new communities, wherein relationships are founded on the oneness of mankind, universal participation, justice, and freedom from prejudice. All are welcome. So what you've got here is a nucleus of friends. And this nucleus of friends comes together to study. They study, you see all the books here? They just pick books, they cast the sum of us, but they come together and they study together, and they become a nucleus, like a hive, a little nucleus of friends. And others are attracted to what they're doing. Hey, you're studying that? I'm kind of interested in thinking about that too. And others join in with them. And then the group begins to flower. and it soars, it takes off. And love binds the friends together, and they're all finding gratitude and joy as they change the world together. And that's the time. I forgot the flag. Oh, well. Hey, would anyone else like to come and explain theirs as I hold up John's? Yes? I can't explain it. You have to explain it. You created it. So after John explains his, Tamara, where are you? You're not here. Shori?
To follow Deidre is hard.
Uh-oh. Thank you.
Basically, it's what everybody else has acknowledged, and
Can you get close to the mic by chance?
and to realize that, as one person once said, 95% of life is showing up. So basically, we
Closer to the mic. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
okay. So we have a little bit of everything involved: nature, participation, and the ways to do that are through the tools that we've been given. We have feasts, we have all kinds of tools, and I'm not going to recite everything that has been said, but remember, the earth is but one country, and mankind its citizens. And the other thing that we wrote down is, we are all flowers of one garden, how diverse and inclusive we all are. Simple.
So now, it's a perfect rainy day, perfect for a movie, right? Yes, we've got a nice, relaxing film that we're all going to watch together. And I welcome Emily Abenyega. All right, I got a thumbs up, to introduce it to us. Thank you. Was I close?
So close. It's okay. I don't say my name right, so it's okay. So we get to end our day watching a movie, which maybe energy-wise is a little dangerous. So I just want to give a brief intro that might invite us to, with energy, watch this movie and feel energized through watching this lovely film that's been made. Just 1 to 2 minutes, just a background information. When we reflect on this idea of a distance traversed, that means we're looking a little bit at history, right? And what are we learning from history? One piece of guidance that goes together with this idea of looking at history is this idea that small steps, if they're regular and rapid, add up to a great distance traveled. So I think that oftentimes we look at our history to learn lessons, to sort of warn us about the future, right? At the same time, I think that if we look at our history, we can actually see glimpses that offer hope for our future as well. I think that both things can be true. And so with this film that we're going to watch, it's called Glimpses. It takes us from about 1921, which marks the time that Abdul Baha, who's a central figure in the Baha'i faith, we call him the exemplar. He manifested these qualities and attributes of trustworthiness, justice, kindness, patience that we've been talking about today. He manifested those sort of in the very essence of his being. And he was given this title from Baha'u'llah, that he is the master. And so we are to look to him as an exemplar of Baha'i teachings, and really, in this film, it doesn't feature it as much, but he really laid the foundation for the Baha'i community of how to be in the world and how to build vibrant communities. And so this film takes us, like I said, from 1921 until the present. And it takes us around the world and through history at the same time, which is a really wonderful way, I think, to travel through time, as it were. And it basically starts off with a group of young people who are struggling, as with all of these examples of community building that we're talking about, they're so small, right? And sometimes it feels like they're not making an impact. So what they do is they actually look back in history to look literally at the shoulders of those on which they are standing, right? We can look in many cultures. You always look back to the past to honor the legacy of those who came before you and the foundation that they built for you then to do the work that you're doing now. So that's what this film does for us with the Baha'i community around the world. And that even if you have this community that started off very, very small in numbers, walking a path of service, striving to achieve the betterment of the world, that you can really sort of see as you look, like I said, through time and around the world. It's a bit of like a mental exercise. You can really see how this has been established so that when we see ourselves now in 2022 talking about creating spaces for worship, for collective worship, talking about having spaces for children, for junior youth, having these conversations around what we call the most vital and challenging issue, this issue of racial prejudice in America, when we see ourselves just having what seem like small, perhaps not so impactful conversations, we realize that we're carrying on a legacy of those who came before us. And then following this film, we'll have a very brief glimpse, to use that term again, into the work that the Baha'i community and friends have been doing in the lower Hudson Valley. So we get to go from this global perspective to a local one. So I do, again, invite you to look at where we've been, where we're going, so that especially going into tomorrow, we get to look at sort of, again, more action steps that we can take. So again, energy, be energized, even though it's the end of the day and it's really cozy in here, because the film is really inspiring.